Hello, and welcome back to Chaos Head Noah. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we returned to school just to find out that there was a student that hadn't come to school and they were coming back. We found out that that character was Fez, and she's actually walking around talking about getting some kind of sword or something. And afterwards, we left school and ran into the police, and they're questioning people, especially just Takumi, about the crucifixion killings, I think? I forgot what it was called, but after giving him a lot of details that Takumi knew, they were like, okay, well, we'll get your number and then we'll call you and we'll protect you. And later that day, Takumi was not very protected as the door to his containment unit was opened up by the demon girl, who revealed that they're actually just our classmate, and they were just here to give us a worksheet, and they are feigning ignorance about being the murderer. So everything's just a giant question mark. We also found out that, main character is going to be Shogun because they got out of their bed and typed stuff underneath the moniker of Shogun. And we went back to the hospital to find out the doctor's not there anymore. So a whole bunch of stuff happened. And now Takumi is on the journey to find his own D-sword. So now we're going to a store somewhere near Cat Street, it looked like. But anyways, let's continue. Cat Street was a twisty street that ran alongside Meiji Street, the main connection between Shibuya and Harajuku. I'd heard that once that it was originally a river that got filled in. There are a lot of theories as to why it's called Cat Street. Some people say it was because there were a lot of stray cats there. Others say that it was because the street was as narrow as a cat's forehead, a common expression in Japanese. Not that I cared either way. Cat Street was a good distance from here. It would take at least 15 to 20 minutes to get there. A bike would get me faster, of course, but I didn't have one. I didn't want to go near the station, so I opted to go through Shoto and cut across Miyashita Park. I walked a little fast across the bridge over Meiji Street. Oh, he's not going to point out that dude with the sign. Whew, I was finally here. I was in such a hurry that I was starting to get frustrated at how long it was taking. Cat Street was, compared to Center Street, much quieter and felt more like Harajuku than Shibuya. All the stores were selling osare clothes. I don't know what that is. The kind that I never had any interest in. Die, sheeple. Sheeple of Shibuya. Japanese net slang meaning hip or fashionable. Person inside is most often used to refer to a voice actor of a character. Kamaitachi phenomenon. Okay. Didn't see those words last time. I could tell I was out of place as I walked down the street, and I got more and more upset. This was totally outside of my usual territory. There were a lot more couples than there were in Center Street. I could tell they were all window shopping. Lol, trying to show off because they didn't actually have any money. Losers. I almost regretted coming, but I choked those feelings down and told myself I needed to get that sword. I walked as fast as I could, face glued to the map, trying to avoid making eye contact with the people around me as I headed to my destination. And I haven't moved. Town Vanguard was down a narrow side street off Cat Street. Actually, let's look at this background for a little bit. So, let's see, just buildings on the right and left. We have La Cafe, and then we have something on a rose on the left. Can't really recognize any of the other words. Okay. I don't think there are any notable characters here. One step down a side street, and the whole place felt very different. The alley was narrow, cramped, and dirty, much too small for a car to travel down. The buildings were old, traditional wooden houses or empty stores with their shutters pulled down, and all the shutters had graffiti sprayed on them too. You see, even if Cat Street looked fancy with its luxury brand storefronts, that was all just fake. This dingy alley was the real Cat Street. Behind the facade, it was nothing but garbage and run-down old buildings. Of course, I didn't like the backside any more than the facade. I wasn't any more at home here than off on the main street. I only had one home, ESO. Town Vanguard turned out to be a smaller and gloomier shop than I expected. I could tell why the blogger who mentioned it had called it underground. There was a sign reading open, but it certainly didn't seem busy. Going inside felt really hard. I was too much of a wimp to go into a fast food place all by myself. How could I go into such a creepy looking place? I want to go home. No, I needed the sword. What was I supposed to do? Misumi, are you here? I went back and forth outside the shop for a while. There was absolutely no one else in the dark alley. I spent 30 minutes wandering around, trying to muster up the courage to go in, and not a single soul came by. Many times, I felt brave enough to go in, only to give up at the last second. My god, just go! But I couldn't give up and go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get a D-sword. But my instincts weren't willing to let me go inside. I had a delusion where the shopkeeper came out to meet me. Of course, she was cute maid, and she spoke to me in an anime voice. She knew exactly what I wanted and offered me a D-sword with a friendly smile. Please take this sword, master. I could be such a horn dog sometimes. Everything would seem much easier if that happened, I told myself, and maybe my wish was heard by someone, because a 3D girl did come out of the shop. Anyone we know? Her outfit wasn't anything like I'd expected, though, but it was some kind of ethnic clothing. It looked really flashy, but the girl herself seemed really gloomy. She had long hair done in an afro, tied up in a bandana with a strange eerie design on it. Okay, so Afro girl. She said she'd gotten sick of watching me wander around outside her store and came out to check on me. My delusion hadn't become reality. Well, of course, that could never happen. Before I knew it, she dragged me inside the store despite my reluctance. I hadn't even had time to say no. I mean, yeah, you're being kind of a creep outside. I ended up inside. I'd overcome the first hurdle at least. Ooh, actually, let's see here. The music's kind of changed. Okay, so literally a suit of armor and some like spears on sale. A lot of things are on sale. Definitely a antique ethnic shop of some kind. But what if this store was actually owned by the demon girl, and the whole D-sword thing was just a plot to lure me here? I could be killed at any minute. I looked around the dimly lit shop. There were no other customers. The air was stale, and there was a thin haze. It smelled like a mix of cigarette smoke and mold. 5 minutes in here, and I'd probably be ready to throw up. I could see what looked like merchandise, but I couldn't tell if it was up for sale or not. It was all placed randomly throughout the store, and to tell the truth, it might have all been garbage. It certainly didn't have the price tags on it. I realized after I got inside that there were a lot of adult porno toys too. There were things that you saw in a lot of rape-style H games. I tried not to look at them. This place must have been some kind of adult knick-knack shop. Despite how eager she was to get me inside, once I was past the door, the woman quickly ignored me. She sat down on her stool next to the register and smoked a cigarette. So, this haze was at least partly her fault then. I hadn't even been inside for a whole minute, but the combination of nervousness and embarrassment, as well as how sick I was feeling, was making me sweat hard. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. Time to find a D-sword fast. I walked towards the back, looking at the shelves as I went. I quickly found the fantasy weapons corner that the blog I'd read about had talked about. This one part of the store stood out from the rest. There were several toys lined up carefully in a display. The toys themselves all looked cheap. Actually, I realized that they were just mostly different colored lightsabers. Some of them were so cheaply made that they were obviously fakes. I wasn't sure if they would even light up. The light-up shurikens that the blog had talked about were sold out, it seemed. That was kind of a surprise. But there was one thing mixed in with the lightsabers that was very clearly different from the others. Just a sword, alright. Just one look at it, I recognized it as a D-sword. It was just like the one I'd seen online. I picked it up. It was lighter than I expected. What was it made out of? Soft plastic? Oh, that was a weird song loop. And there was no blade. The edge was smooth. I ran my finger across it, and of course, it didn't hurt at all. Compared to the ones that Senna and Fez had, it didn't have any weight or complex design, and certainly wasn't sharp. Maybe it was a fake? I was a little worried, but this was the only thing in the shop that could possibly be a D-sword. Did this even light up? The one Fez had, who had been swinging around at the concert, had some kind of glass embedded into the blade, which had lit up with a pale light. It was really cool! But there was no glass on this one I was holding. Maybe I should just give up on buying it. This D-sword was such a piece of junk that I was ready to give up, even after coming all the way here. But...
見つけて、早く、剣を。そうすれば、君は救われるわ。
I remember Fez's words. Right, if I didn't buy it here, I wouldn't have any clues as to where to get another one. Maybe it just looked cheap, and when it suddenly recognized its rightful owner, it would suddenly transform into something with incredible power. Maybe I'd just seen too much anime and manga. But Senna and Fez both had D-swords that seemed to possess a strange strength. Maybe this sword would turn out to be the same. What should I do? Oh, circle thing? Oh, no, never mind. As I stood there, uncertain, the clerk came up behind me. She grinned a gloomy smile and pointed at the D-sword. 10,000 yen, I'll throw in a little bonus, she whispered. I was so stunned at how cheap that was that I couldn't believe my ears. That's $100. I had some decent savings built up for my RMT business. 10,000 yen was cheap enough that all I'd do was pass on buying a single figure. That's a good point. There are like, I guess they're similar in prices since he goes after the high quality figures too. When I heard the price and almost that it was the last one that the store had, I bought it immediately. The bonus was just a cheap bangy bracelet. Total garbage. The true nightmare began once I bought the sword. Town Vanguard didn't ship. You had to walk home with anything you bought. Even if it was a toy, the idea of carrying this huge sword across the middle of Shibuya was enough to quench any excitement I felt. I'd already paid though, and the clerk steadfastly refused to return my money. This was going to be incredibly humiliating. I had to walk down some of the most fashionable streets in Tokyo holding a giant toy sword. Of course, the DQN couples and well-dressed ladies all chuckled at me as they walked by. Damn it, I wish they'd all die. I headed home, delusions filling my mind of me swinging the sword wildly and murdering everyone in the street. Back home at the base at the containment unit. I was finally home. I started running once I got in close, but I was out of breath by the time I got up to the base. The cold gazes of the people that I passed had really stung. I don't know how Senna had managed to endure this humiliation. It was something I could respect in a way. There was no way I could do it. Uh-oh, is someone already in there? I gotta get in there! Suddenly, I heard a sound from the other side of the base. Was someone here? I froze and gasped. I remembered the smile that I'd seen on the face of the demon girl who called herself Rimi. Maybe she'd come back. This time, maybe she'd come to kill me. What should I do? Run? I could sense the presence of someone in front of me. The setting sun cast someone's shadow on the ground. It was clearly the silhouette of a woman. I quickly raised my D-sword. Holding it in my hand like this, I realized what a piece of crap that it really was. The one Senna had a strange power and intensity about it. But mine didn't seem to have anything like that. Maybe it was just a fake after all. Could I really fight with this thing? Not a chance. Even if it was real, I still couldn't actually fight someone with it. Holding it in my hand, I felt weirdly heavy. Maybe I was holding it wrong. It didn't feel like something I could actually swing like a weapon. The shadow suddenly began to move. It was coming closer. It's hey, Oni-chan! I closed my eyes, thrusting the sword out in front of me at a random angle. Not that I expected to hurt anybody with it. But I had a faint hope that this sword could maybe, just maybe, help me. Then, nothing happened. My foe didn't say a word. Maybe the D-sword had annihilated the demon girl with a single swing. If so, that would be incredible.
Oni, その剣何?
I knew it! I opened my eyes, but instead of the demon girl, I saw Nanami. She was looking at me with contempt in her eyes. The tension drained from my body. I collapsed where I stood. This was just awful. She was an awful sister. What kind of awful sister likes to entertain herself by scarring her brother? Who the hell did she think she was anyways? This is why 3D girls would always be inferior to 2D ones.
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいにお兄の生存確認しに来てあげたんじゃん。なのにお兄いないんだもん。なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
Worry? Why was she worried about me? I refuse to be fooled by such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。 携帯にかけても繋がんないし。
I left the phone in the base. I knew nobody would call me, so there was no point in taking it.
そもそもその剣何なの？もしかして買ってきたの？
It's just for exercise. Yeah, that's it. She was staring at the sword, looking a little confused.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタクさんだね。しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。
Ha, you look stupid. Ha!
さっきだってへっぴり腰で構えちゃってて、思い出したら笑えてきた。
I ignored Nanami and opened the padlocks to my room, and then tried to head inside.
ちょっと、無視すんな。
帰れ。
You know I'm alive. Now go home. She was always making fun of me, and did nothing but complain every time she came here. If she really hated it that much, then she could just leave. I certainly didn't want her here.
あのね、わざわざ様子見に来てあげてんだから、もっとありがたがってよ。せっかくお土産まで持ってきたのに。
She pouted at me.
お土産？
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら。
She handed me some mandarin oranges, 10 or so, in a red net bag. It wasn't a great present. I'd eat mandarins if there were any laying around, but they weren't exactly a favorite of mine.
というわけで、ナナもちょっと一服したいから一緒に食べてあげる。
帰れ。
もう、妹がお土産持ってきて、しかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
I feel like I've seen this song and dance before. What was there to be happy about? Why would I want to eat oranges with my little sister anyway? She probably just wanted to eat some herself. She was always a big eater. She used to always eat my food too. We got into fights about it all the time. Naomi went inside the base, ignoring my protests. I had no choice but to follow. Alright, don't you dare touch my new Seroton figure. Of course not. I only drink soda. Naomi sat down on the sofa and took out an orange. I sighed and set the D-sword up against my computer desk. I didn't need the bangle, so I tossed it off into a corner.
あれ？それ何？
Naomi quickly picked it up off the floor.
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。
Yeah, you know, I expected it to be like beads and whatnot, but that actually looks alright.
これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
Cute? How? It was just a cheap thing, probably not worth more than 500 yen. Naomi just had terrible taste. I ignored her and took a seat at my desk, grabbing an orange as I did so.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
It's not a present. It's just some junk you want.
勝手に持ってけば。
ほんと？やったー。
That's gonna be relevant. She was certainly easy to please. As soon as I gave the okay, she quickly put on the bangle on her arm. Such a cheap little sister, enjoying such a cheap gift. Aw, look at her. Yeah, you know, that looks a lot better than I expected.
お兄、どう？似合う？
全然。
I'll never say it. I'll never say it.
お兄のバーカ。
I gave her a present, right? So why was she treating me like this? What kind of little sister calls her brother a jerk? Where'd she learn to do that? Go play 100 H games and learn how to properly behave.
バーカ。
She was smiling too. I was really getting angry.
これ気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんね。っていうか、お兄からプレゼントもらうなんて初めてのような気がする。
Oh wow.
しょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ。
Whatever. Nobody asked you to. I didn't even buy it for you.
もう用は済んだんだから帰れ。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
Suddenly, she looked upset.
そんな言い方しなくてもいいじゃん。それにみかんまだ食べてないし。
None for
手間まで
you.
出してもらってないよ。
throw it in her face.
おめえに飲ませるお茶はね。
She glared at me, shoulders heaving with rage. Eventually, her eyes started to tear up.
わかったよ。そんなに邪魔なら帰る。
Yep, same song and
さっさ
dance.
と頼む。
お兄のバカ。
I knew it.
お兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃ
Yep, she does this every time and then she leaves.
え。あとバングルは返さないからね。バーカ。
Her high-pitched yell echoed throughout the room as she grabbed her bag and flew out the door with incredible speed. Whew. At last, the storm was finally over. Every time I talked to Nanmi, I felt exhausted. Why did she keep coming when she knew how much I didn't like it? Read the room. Okay. Next scene. Where the heck are we?
ファーストメルトは期待以上の結果に終わりました。
What kind of room are we? Wait, council of, like, evil people. Nozomi?
G レートの
oops.
上昇率は当初の予測からわずかな誤差があった程度です。
They're just talking about scientific stuff that I don't know. What is this first melt thing?
バイオリズムコントロールも順調なのかね。
Biorhythm. Okay, this a graph which shows us cyclical changes in a person's physical, sensitive, and intellectual states. It's commonly said that on a day when people's biorhythms are high, they're in a good mood and able to focus and perform well. And then when they're low, the opposite happens.
渋谷の G レートは他のエリアと比べて高い値を持っていると同時に安定性についても特筆したものがあります。
So what do we know about Nozomi? I think Nozomi were the people that they were the people in the black suits that were in Takumi's doctor's room when, you know, when he was a kid. They were also probably the people who were doing like the people in the black suits who were up at like 4 a.m. in Shibuya conducting some survey research number thing. Yeah.
それゆえに意図的に操作しやすいということか。そして渋谷にいる人々のバイオリズムを急激に引き上げることもまた。
Gotta increase the biorhythm of the people of Shibuya.
実験結果についてはレポートをご参照ください。納得していただける成果を上げております。
貴様が成果を出すのは当然だ。そのために高い金と多くの人材を提供しているのだからな。
実効性については理解しているよ。この数ヶ月だけでも我が会の信者が数倍に膨れ上がっているからね。
Oh, there's a church involved. Actually, I'm just gonna look at this again. So we have the person in front of us who has like really pale blonde hair, I think. There's a older gentleman on the right with like, oh my god, so much facial hair. And the one on the left who's just kind of like ordinary. I'm assuming there's someone in the middle, but I can't really see them.
それではプロジェクトノアは次
Noah
の段階へと進ませます。
ChäoS Head
よろ
Noah.
しいですね。
コードサンプルの件はどうするのだ。すでに3人分は確保したとはいえ、目標数値には達しておらんではないか。
I have no idea what they're talking about. They've secured 3 people? Are they people we know?
いかにも。数値達成のためには最低でも5人分はなければ厳しい。
Need 5.
サンプル保持者は集まりつつあります。あとは採取するのみ。
ならばその件は任せる。
信仰の救いあれ。くれぐれも慎重にことを進めるように。
はい、心得ております。
I am aware. Alright, yeah, that was just a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't understand. A secret group, a secret council of people who are trying to take over the world, probably. Back to Baselar.
そろそろ寝るか。
Oh man, that was making me tired. I bit back a yawn and looked over at my PC's block. It was showing 5 a.m. Whoops. I spent the whole night grinding ESO and hadn't gotten the rare item I wanted. 8 hours of work and nothing. Well, it happened a lot. I looked over to the side of my computer desk. The D-sword I bought yesterday was still there. It was close enough that I could grab it at any time. It hadn't glowed at all for what it was worth. I was hoping that at some point it would transform into an awesome weapon like the one Senna had. On the monitor, Grimm's level had just avatar had just leveled up. My Nightheart was max level, so he wouldn't level up again. As I rubbed my tired eyes, I wondered if it was time to make a third character after Lieselot. I found myself thinking about the experience points. There was something that you saw a lot in video games, but the way I saw it, there were just experience points in real life too. When I started ESO, I'd been a completely clueless newbie, but now I was Baselard's famous lightning-fast Nightheart, the game's ultimate warrior. So, for instance, was it possible that some of the person inside me experience points have been reset somehow? So maybe that's why I'd forgotten things that I should have known. Maybe that's where weird inconsistencies in my memories had come from. Like with Shogun or the Demon Girl. Before I lost my experience points, I, that is, the person inside me, had used the nickname Shogun in chat. Maybe the Demon Girl, Rimi, had been a big part of my life too, and I wasn't a friendless otaku. No, that was going too far. But maybe before, I had some kind of incredible power that would have let me fight the Demon Girl. I wonder if I was the only person who could come up with an idea like this. Not that it really seemed that strange to me. Humans could only ever judge things by standards they created for themselves. Did that mean that it was possible that I, not just me, but everyone else in the world was wrong about everything? When I was little, I gone to the dentist and they said to me, "You did a great job not crying when it hurt so much." Back then, I kind of felt proud for enduring the pain, like I'd done something special. But looking back, they were probably judging how much pain I was in by looking at how bad the cavity was. But maybe the same level of pain was really bad for some people and not so much for others. Maybe the way people felt things or sensed things was totally different. Take giving birth, for instance. I've seen a lot of people online, for instance, saying that women could handle the pain but men couldn't. Or what about marathon runners? Maybe what made them special wasn't their stamina, but the way they could endure pain. Maybe take SMM. Some people enjoy receiving pain, and some people enjoy giving it. Maybe everyone had different ways of experiencing their senses, and different levels that they can endure. Maybe the toothaches and headaches that I sometimes had to put up with were a level of pain beyond what an ordinary person can handle. And if I could pass that pain to some of them somehow, they'd die on the spot from shock. All the speculation left me with the selfish delusion that I was somehow special.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
Yeah, sure. I denied it, but I'm sure that was the delusion everybody shared. Every man wants to be the strongest in the world. Everybody wants to think that they're special, chosen. They want to believe that a dramatic future filled with adventures is waiting for them, like on TV or in the movies. The desire to be a hero. I guess you could call it. It was childish, really. Of course, I had that same desire. Maybe it was my destiny in life to defeat the Demon Girl. Of course, if someone actually told me to do it, I'd have several conditions. I'd need cheat codes, obviously, like God mode for one thing, or invincibility. I didn't want to be scared or get hurt. Okay, cheat. Yeah, we know what cheating is. If I didn't have that, in other words, if I had to do it right now, I would absolutely refuse. Which meant that if the person inside me's experience points had been reset, I might be at a big disadvantage. Okay, that was a interesting monologue. So we're in class this time. Can we actually find Rimi? I was almost late today. Maybe staying up until dawn to play games before a school day was a mistake. I had to run to make it in time. When I arrived outside my classroom, I paused to catch my breath. I didn't want to do anything to attract the attention from my classmates. Being late was a potentially fatal mistake. If any DQN took an interest in me, my life was over. I slowly walked into the classroom. My head was pointed towards the ground and I avoided looking at anyone. Of course, I didn't give anyone a cheery good morning. I tried to make myself as invisible as possible as I headed for my seat. That was how I'd always did things. Like usual, I reached my seat without any issue and sat down. I quickly put my head down on the desk. Now I'd be safe for the rest of the homeroom. Or so I thought until I was lightly tapped on the back.
Yo, Haku.
Okay.
今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。
Yeah.
真面目だな。
God damn it, Misumi. Misumi again. I sighed, but it wouldn't be right to ignore him. I began to raise my head and stopped. Was this Misumi really Misumi? 2 days ago, I'd call him like the demon girl had told me to, but something had been very wrong. He acted like the demon girl was in our class. That was impossible. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him, or maybe he'd become someone else entirely.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
A loud electronic noise echoed through the classroom. I felt a slight vibration near my chest. It was my phone! Damn it, why now of all times? What kind of idiot would call at a time like this? Why was it playing the ringtone I'd set to when I set it to vibrate? Maybe I messed up the settings.
お、鳴ってるぞ、タク。
I know that. Should I answer now? But if I did, Misumi would know that I wasn't asleep, and I didn't like answering the phone anyway. If I didn't answer, though, it would annoy the rest of the class. Having my phone ringtone drown out the rest of the classroom was bad. I needed to stay invisible. This was really bad.
おーい、出ないのか？マジで寝てる？
But now I'd missed my chance. I couldn't move. Suddenly, the sound and vibration stopped. It must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief, being careful not to let Misumi hear me. I was glad I'd learned how to set up voicemail.
なあ、タク。相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ？そうなんだろ？
Gah! Shut up! I was already attracting too much attention because of the phone call. Please, just leave me alone. Was Misumi always this annoying? He was always too friendly, but he hadn't always been like this annoying, right?
やめなよ。
That voice, it was coming from right next to Misumi.
そっとしておいてあげたら、大臣。なんだか疲れてるみたいだし。
She was in this classroom, acting like she belonged here.
どうせゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
だって大臣は女の敵だし、そういう人には優しくしません。
She was talking like she belonged here. She was fitting in, like she belonged here. I was too scared to look up. I didn't want to admit that the girl was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
Okay.
だから、そういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。
Girlfriend? You mean girlfriends?
今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。ほら、チャイム鳴った。先生来るよ。
Had the demon girl really always been my classmate? No, that was impossible. She wasn't there 2 days ago. Misumi was the only one who talked to me that day, and hadn't come yesterday. And now she was here today. How had she wormed her way in? As a homeroom chime rang, everybody headed back to their seats. I fearfully looked up, trying to see as much as I could without moving my head. I wanted that voice to be a hallucination, and for that to happen, I needed to prove that she wasn't in this room. I didn't see her. I didn't see the girl. Maybe it was a hallucination. My seat was in the 5th row. There were 9 rows in all. She wasn't in the seats in front of me. Did that mean she was behind me? I didn't look back. I couldn't do something that would attract so much attention. Damn it, this was so frustrating. Why was she in the room, or wasn't she? I didn't feel the prickling on my neck. Nobody was looking at me. I couldn't sense anybody's gaze. Was she here? Was she not here? Which? I stared down at my desk, trying to see if I could sense her, somehow. Then I heard the sound of the teacher coming into the room. I forgot their name. I think it was Tsukaji or Tsukada or something, I think. It was the phys ed teacher, and he was a huge meathead. But he didn't yell or do any physical punishment either. If anything, he was the kind of teacher who could take a joke. There was a mild murmur of surprise going up and down the classroom, but I was too busy thinking about the demon girl to worry about it. How the hell was I supposed to sense anybody? This wasn't a manga. Was it just stupid?
今日から転校生が入ることになった。
The teacher spoke in a whisper, so that's what the fuss was about. It's gonna be Kozoe probably, because when we saw her, like the twin-tailed girl, she was moving. So she's probably moving to this school.
ほら、折原、 みんなに挨拶しろ。
Orihara. Last name? I couldn't hear the transfer student's voice. Was she really here? I took a quick glance in front of the room. Oh, yep, that's her. That's her. Sure enough, there was a girl there. I wonder what kind of delusion we could see here. I don't know. She was really thin. She might have been smaller than Nanami. She looked kind of weak and timid, in a moe sort of way. She was pretty cute for a 3D girl. Maybe. For some reason, there were tears in her eyes and she was looking down. The class started to murmur louder as it became clear that the transfer student wasn't going to say a word. The teacher gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder.
どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。みんな、この子は折原梢だ。
Yep, Kozue.
仲良くしてやってくれ。折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student bowed silently and started walking towards me. Her seat would be 4 rows behind me. I thought about pretending to follow her with my eyes as she walked so I could look back and see what was there. But if I did, I'd stand out a lot. I mean, no, not really. Some DQNs might see me and say, oh, don't stare at the transfer student just because she's cute, and then try to beat me up. What should I do? Turn around or wait until homeroom ended? My head drooped as I squeezed my fists tightly. It was no good. I didn't have the courage. If I turned around and saw the girl...
この人、似てる。
I could hear her speak. The transfer student passed by me. The next thing I knew, I was looking up. The transfer student stopped just before... Whoa. Whoa! She's got a giant D-sword. The transfer student stopped just for a single moment as she walked by my desk. But she didn't look towards me. She was holding what looked like a giant iron plate. What? Okay, I guess it's gone. Huh? I blinked and it was gone. What was that? Was I seeing things?
同じクラスでよかった。
She quickly passed by my desk. Was she talking to me? Why was she suddenly talking to me? Like, me? I'm glad we're in the same class? Had we even met before? No, I didn't remember her face at all. There was nothing in my past involving a long-forgotten childhood friend either. Nothing out of an H game. Maybe I was finally starting to get popular? Or... was the transfer student with the demon girl? If so, the net was closing in even tighter. It'd be harder and harder to run away. Oh, the bell rings. Homeroom came to an end as I tried to figure out the answers to new doubts that were rising within my mind. There were 5 minutes until the first period started. Misumi was already on his way to the new girl's desk. He was evidently aiming to start hitting on her on the first day. My other classmates were all curious about her as well. The classroom was a lot noisier than usual. On the surface, it was a peaceful, ordinary day. But to me, it felt like I was in the middle of an enemy camp. My heart was pounding so hard and wouldn't calm down. My whole body felt tense, and it took a lot of courage just to move a single finger. I was fighting the impulse to turn around with the knowledge that doing so was suicide.
タク
My breathing almost stopped. My mind went blank. The voice was right behind me. She was here after all. She was right here.
具合悪そうだけど。平気
Run! Run! I tried to, but my legs were shaking too much to stand up. As I sat there frozen, the demon girl, Rimi Sakihata, came around to my front.
汗びっしょり。風邪でもひいたんじゃない
Just like she had 2 days ago, she sounded worried about me. Just like she had 2 days ago, she offered me a floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't take it in. Instead, I wiped the sweat away with my hands.
なんて。
何
I couldn't even look at her. I could hear in her voice that she was smiling though.
ねえねえ。さっき、何話してたの
Rimi crouched down and put her hands on the desk, resting her head on them to look at me. She was looking at my face again. I looked away as fast as I could. Damn it, was she just not going to let me escape no matter what? My heart was about to burst from fear. Somebody save me.
すっごく気になる。
What was she even talking about? Who was I talking to?
転校生。 あの子がタクの机の横を通るときに覚えでさ。
Oh my god,
ボソボソっと。
she's in his mind. She can read everything.
もしかしてあの子と知り合い？
Rimi was still smiling, but was I imagining it, or did her voice sound like she was interrogating me?
タクってリアルの女の子に興味ないんじゃなかったっけ？もしかして本当は興味あるの？
What do you care? Was she trying to find out my personal information so that she could threaten me or something? No, I wasn't into 3D girls. That was something I was always clear about.
じゃあさ私にも実は興味あったりする？
A freezing chill ran down my spine. More sweat was pouring down my forehead, even though I just swiped it away. Was that a threat? Or was she telling me to join her? Or was she trying to act moe and seduce me, so she could set me up in the trap? Alarm bells were going off in my mind. I couldn't say another word to the demon girl, or I was doomed.
タク？
I didn't even think about it. I just leapt out of my chair and ran out of the classroom, tripping over the other students' desks as I went. Way to not draw attention. Ho-ho. Back at the base? No, we're still in the school. We're on the roof. I've never seen this before. I ran straight up the stairs of the school building onto the empty roof. The girl didn't seem to be following me, but still, I couldn't relax. I decided to crouch down and hide behind something. My knees were shaking. I was amazed I'd managed to run like this. Maybe that was just a sign of how desperate I'd been. I couldn't take any more of this reality. Even that D-sword I bought turned out to be useless. I couldn't even take it to school. It would stand out too much. I'd let my guard down. When Misumi had told me that Rimi was our classmate 2 days ago, I thought it was a lie or a delusion. But she'd really become a classmate. There was no sense in trying to figure out how she'd done it. She was a demon after all. She could do things that humans couldn't. Maybe she'd brainwash the class, maybe even all the teachers. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't go to the hospital. Yua had been at Cafe and Shogun had found me online. Her servants were getting closer and closer to me, and they were launching constant psychological attacks too. Maybe I'd be better to just not leave the base. There are too many enemies outside in reality. They were constantly threatening my peaceful life. I looked up at the blue sky, where the white clouds were flying freely, blown by the wind. If only I could be one of those clouds. Oh man. About 3 hours had passed. Is he still on the roof? Oh, he is. Damn, he just stayed there for 3 hours. I spent the whole time silently crouched on the ground. For now, nobody seemed to be following me. Only after that was I able to relax. The problem was, what did I do now? Somebody was sure to come here to eat during lunch. Maybe my best option would be to run out of the school and back to the base during 4th period. It would screw up my schedule, but I didn't have anywhere near the courage I'd need if I wanted to go back to the class with the demon girl waiting. My bag was still there, but I'd just have to forget about it. The only thing in it were books anyway. My important stuff like my wallet and key were all in my uniform pocket. Right? I got worried and double-checked. Wallet, key, phone, they were all there. Only then did I remember that somebody had called me earlier. It had really freaked me out when it happened, not as much as when Rimi spoke to me though.
一体誰だ？
The only people who could have possibly wanted to call me would be my family. It was most likely Nanami, right? She didn't care about whether she was bothering me or not. Who else would know that number? Oh, I also told it to those detectives. If it was them, maybe I should have picked up. We never did discuss exactly how they were going to send police officers to guard the base. The LCD display showed a number of a person who'd call. It didn't look like it was Nanami. I noticed that I had a voicemail too. Did I recognize that number from somewhere? I decided to check my call history. I don't remember. I feel like the number seems familiar, but I genuinely don't remember. Oh, delusion moment. We could decide what what he's delusional about. There were only 5 calls there. In other words, only 5 times had someone called me since I'd bought my phone. 3 of them were from Nanami. What about the other 2? There was one from 5 days ago, and the one just now. Since her number wasn't in my contacts, it wasn't showing up as a name. They were both from the same number, 03X733X991. If they left a message, it must mean that they really want to talk to me. It's gonna be Shogun. Who could it be? The police, most likely. Did he give... I don't think he gave the police his phone number that time, like before that time, when he got the missed call. I don't remember. It wasn't Misumi or the demon girl. Both of them were right in front of me when the phone rang. Who else could it be? Maybe Yua? But there was no way she would know my number, and there was nothing I had to say to her now anyway. The only way to find out was to listen to it. I looked around to make sure the demon girl wasn't anywhere nearby, and put the phone up to my ear.
こちらは留守番電話サービスセンターです。新しいメッセージは1件です。
You have one new message.
1件目、10月17日金曜日午前8時28分の伝言です。
Alright. Huh.
なんぞこれ。
That is not what I expected. What I heard wasn't a voice. It was a melody I knew well. Basslard? It seemed to be playing somewhere far off in the distance. The caller might have been standing near a traffic light. You heard that melody a lot at crosswalks to let the blind know that the light had changed. Oh, okay. The song was called Toyanse. Toyanse? I don't know, by the way. A lot of people knew the melody, but not many knew the lyrics, probably. I knew them, for what it's worth. I learned them in elementary school. I didn't remember them completely, but they went something like this. Pass through, pass through. What narrow path is this? This is a narrow path of Tenjin. Oh. Okay, whoops. Please, let us pass through. None may pass through, but that have... Wait. None may pass through, but that have business here. Okay. Oh, I couldn't read that because for our child's 7th birthday, the going is easy. I had like a brain fart moment where I'm like, this sentence did not make any sense to me. It sounded like the way back is beep, boop, beep, boop. It sounded like an ambulance or something. It was probably a coincidence, but still, it was really creepy. Wait, so it said... None may pass through, but that have business here. Oh, we've come to offer this talisman for a child's 7th birthday. The going is easy. Yeah, maybe that's a typo, or maybe I'm just misinterpreting something. I don't know. Oh, my brain was malfunctioning. Oh, like this, yeah. Just after the melody cut off, I heard what sounded like a loud buzzer. The volume was so loud, I yanked the phone away from my ear.
なんだ
I fearfully put the pocket of the phone back to my ear, but the message was over. What was that about? It felt like I heard the earth rumbling at the end, too. The buzzer was totally different than the traffic signal. If it was that loud, they must have brought it right to the phone.
いたずら
Just a prank, bro. My heart was racing. Had I done something to piss somebody off? Who'd even make this call? I had their number so I could call back if I wanted to, but I didn't have the courage. You know what? Good on you for that one this time. That was awfully sus. There's nothing I could do about it, and anyway, I was still in the middle of something much worse happening to me. I put the phone in my pocket and left the school, watching my surroundings as carefully as I possibly could. Oh, okay, now we're done with the roof. Going home. I'm assuming he just went home during the lunch. Takumi Nishijo's alma mater, Kitazawa Elementary School No. 2, was 5 minutes away from a privately operated train station. Yasuji Ban had the idea of talking to his old teacher, but when he called the school, he found that they passed away. Okay, so we're in the detective's POV now. Instead, he opted to talk to the person he spoke to on the phone, the current head teacher, a man named Kamio. He and his partner had come here just to do just that. It was a Saturday and the school was closed. Bon and Suo were standing in front of the school building looking at it. There was a very eye-catching picture drawn on its outer walls. Bon wasn't the artistic type, so it was beyond him what the thing might be. It looked like a spiral, but changed into 7 different colors from top to bottom, so it felt kind of like a rainbow. Bon waved to his fan as he stared at it. His partner Suo pushed the call button on the gate. Ding dong. Bon suddenly looked around. It felt like somebody was watching him. It was an unpleasant, clinging sort of gaze. Oh, he has the sense. He has the sense.
俺ってそんなにかっこいいか?
He struck a little pose. He looked stylish and cool, he thought.
先輩、何変なポーズしてるんすか?
He plays the same game that Takumi plays.
裏門の方に通用口があるんで、そっちに回ってくれって。
Bon gave up on his pose and sighed. He started to walk. It didn't take long to find the teacher's office. The back gate led to the school's rear entrance, and a turn off the hallway inside took you there. There were, of course, no children inside the school. It might have just been the shiny linoleum, but the air felt cooler than it did outside. No idea what that word is. There were 3 teachers in the teacher's office. One of them stood up and bowed as the detectives entered. His rapidly graying hair was parted, and he had the pleasant smile on his face. This was Kamio. Bon and Suo brought their IDs at almost precisely the same time, giving brief introductions before getting to the point. It was Suo's job to do the talking.
ここの卒業生である西條匠くんについて教えていただきたいんですが。
彼のことは印象に残っています。私は担任ではなかったから詳しくとなると無理ですが、それでも構いませんか?
Wow, they're really going to school to ask about him. Oh. Suo nodded and opened his notebook to start taking down a memo.
西條くんはどんな子だったんすか?
難しい子だと聞いていました。特殊だと。
特殊?
本来なら他の生徒に混ざって勉強するのはとても困難な、病気を患っていたらしく。
He had a certain illness that would normally make it very difficult for him to mix with the other students. Illness? Are they talking about a physical one or a mental one?
具体的には?
そこまで私が言ってしまっていいのかどうか。ご家族なり医師なりに聞いていただけますか?
Almost all the schools were like this these days. They didn't want any trouble. They refused to do anything that could result in an angry phone call from a parent. It made the cops' jobs a lot harder.
担任の先生はなんで亡くなったんです?
事故です。遠足の最中、乗っていたバスが陥没した道路に。
Ah, it was this one, yeah.
あ、自分それ知ってるっす。ニュースでやってたっすよね。
子供たちは怪我をしただけで、幸い命は助かったのですが、斉藤先生だけが犠牲になってしまい、なんともやりきれない思いです。
西條くんもその事故に巻き込まれた。
Kamio shook his head softly.
あの子は当日欠席していて、バスには乗っていませんでした。
欠席の理由は?
病が悪化したと聞いたような覚えがありますが。
Bon vaguely remembered the incident too. He had seen the media standing outside the house of the one boy who hadn't been injured for days on end, trying to get an interview. The boy had never shown himself, however.
あれは悲しい事故だったんですよ。
For some reason, Kamio repeatedly seemed to put emphasis on the word accident. Oh, was that all we're gonna get from the cops? I thought there would be more. I guess so. He's like, oh no, they're learning too much. We must put the viewer away. Having a quick chat with Grim before diving into ESO was becoming a daily routine of mine. We never talked about anything specific. We'd swap information about the latest at-chan threads, or talk about naughty stuff, or our latest favorite manga, or the anime we'd seen the other day, stuff like that. Oddly enough, we didn't talk much about ESO. We do more than enough ESO chat when we were playing after this. 2 participants, alright. Let's get typing. Have you heard anything about weird pranks lately? ChäoS, KWS. I've never heard of that. Short for Kuwashiku or give me the details. Used by 2000s. Okay, give me detail. Give me the deets. It was just something I heard. I don't know if it's really something people are doing. But like, they play weird noises on your cell phone. Did they say some naughty things with a Moe voice, lol? Lol, what kind of H game is that, lol? I mean, if it was that, I'd love to get pranked, lol. So, what kind of whose eyes are those, is it? Grim kept using that phrase. Instantly, I felt sick. The sentence didn't even make sense. Was the phrase funny enough that he had to force it in everywhere? I didn't think so, at least. If anything, it was stupid. But I couldn't start an argument until I had asked him about the prank. I decided to just put up with it for now. Like the sound of some nasty otaku jerking it? Lol. That'd be awful. Actually, it's Toryanse. Toryanse? That's a song, right? The one that they play on crosswalks? Yup. And suddenly, it changes into this buzz noise. And it's really loud. You ever heard of a prank like that? I mean, it sounds like something ad channels would do. That strange noise that had left my phone yesterday. I didn't know who was behind it, and it was pretty unnerving, so I decided to try and ask Grim. If it was just a prank, I could forget about it. Huh? Why wasn't Grim responding? Give it a second. Hello? You fall asleep? There was no answer. It was rare for Grim to pass out on me during a chat. It had never happened before, actually. But if it happened, it happened. I'd see him later in ESO, and I could talk to him then, just when I was about to get up out of my seat. Back. I ran a search on 8chan about the prank that you're talking about. Oh, was that what he was up to? But that mean that even Grim didn't know about it, and he usually knew everything. Nobody was talking about it, though. Not just on 8chan, but on the rest of the internet. So it must be somebody who had a personal grudge against me then. I was starting to get really curious about who it could be, but I didn't have the courage to call them back. I suddenly had an idea. If I knew the phone number, I could have someone else call it for me. Maybe Nanami or Misumi. Those two would be the safest bets. No, Misumi was brainwashed by the demon girl. He wasn't a good choice. Nanami was my little sister, so it'd probably be easy to ask her. She'd get really mad later, probably, but that wasn't my problem. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. It was the least she could do after all the bullshit she put me through. I said thanks to Grim and ended the chat, promising to meet up with him later in ESO. My stomach was starting to rumble. I was hungry. Did I have any instant ramen somewhere? I looked, but I didn't find any. I'd have no choice but to go to the convenience store. I kind of thought about this, but where does he, like, use the bathroom and or use, like, toiletries, like, take a shower or anything? The sun had already set. I would have preferred to not be out at night if I could avoid it. Lately, only bad things have been happening at night. I head to the convenience store, my feet moving faster than they usually did. It was Saturday, so normally I would have seen a bunch of people on the street. Today, it was empty. All the stores that would usually be open were closed. It was kind of strange. Oh no, something bad's gonna happen. Maybe I'd forgotten what time it was. I thought it was 7 p.m., but maybe it was actually 2 a.m. or something. Nah, no way. Still, it was way too quiet. You couldn't hear any of the noises that you usually heard in the city. The town felt different somehow. I made it to a convenience store in front of Shinsen Station. Even the area around the station was completely devoid of people. I was starting to get more than a little scared. When something you expect to be there suddenly vanishes, it makes you feel like you've been sucked into some other strange world. Normally, I avoided any interaction with other people, but today, I longed to see somebody's face. I ran into the convenience store. There should be at least one cashier here, or I thought. I looked around. Oh, the city is gone. All the inhabitants are gone. There was nobody. No customers, no employees.
まさか
That was impossible, right? The cashier must have just be in the back. If I took my stuff to the register, they'd come out right away. I forced myself to take my time picking out a boxed meal from the refrigerated section. I even pretended to look at the manga magazines before finally putting my meal on the counter next to the cash register. Nobody came out from the back. I looked around. Still, nobody came out from the back. I took out my wallet and checked how much change I had on me. Nevertheless, nobody came out from the back. I picked up the boxed meal and made a little noise with it before placing it back down, but nobody came out from the back. I didn't have the courage to say anything, even if there was nobody here. Even so, nobody came out from the back. Oh man, he's got the repeating disease. It's like the daga otoko da. I thought about trying to leave without paying, but decided that I couldn't take any risk that might end up with me getting arrested. Regardless, nobody came out from the back. The cashier must be taking the garbage out. Again, nobody came out from the back. Or maybe they're taking inventory or something. And yet, nobody came out from the back. I finally got so scared that I just put the thing back on the shelf and left. Oh, spooky. It's dark now. I came to the railway crossing right next to the station. I could see this Shinsen station platform clearly from here. Let's look at this. So there's a Lawson's or fake Lawson's. And it's just, yeah, it's a station. It's the tracks. There was no way a station platform could be empty, I told myself. It was just impossible. But of course, nobody came out from the back. There was nobody there. I decided to wait for the train to come. If a train stopped at the station, people would surely get off of it. And even if nobody did, I could see somebody in the train as it went past. But nobody came out from the back. The world is silent. I waited 10 minutes, and there was no sign of any train. I tried to tell myself that there might have been an accident or something that had thrown off the schedule, but there still wasn't a person on the platform. Only then did I realize the seriousness of the situation. It didn't make sense. This wasn't right. I decided to head to Shibuya Station. There was always somebody there. I was sure of that. The area around Shibuya Station was always busy, 24 hours a day. I couldn't take the fear anymore, so I started to run. I ran as fast as I could. Even when I started running out of breath, I still didn't stop. I wasn't sure if I'd ever run so hard in my entire life. As I ran, I wished that this was all just some awful dream, but it wasn't. My heart and lungs were in so much pain, I thought that they'd explode. There was no way this pain could just be a dream. I was surprised at how intense my breathing was. But no matter how much air I took in, the pain didn't go away. I headed down Dogenzaka Hill and finally got within the sight of the 107 building. But at that point, my legs were barely moving. My body felt incredibly heavy. But I forced my legs to move forward. I didn't even have any strength left for looking around me. My entire consciousness was focused on getting me to Scramble Crossing, the symbol of Shibuya. Almost there. Just a bit more. I have to make it past the 107. Then I'd be in the busiest place in Japan. The place where everyone mixes together when the walk sign changes. That's why it's called Scramble. Scramble. There's gonna be nobody there. An empty Scramble Crossing. Oh, go. Empty. The whole of Scramble Crossing and Shibuya Station were empty. A world without sound, a world that was dead. The air around the crossing was always filled with a flood of sound, but today it was ruled by silence. All I could hear was the sound of my own panting. I fell to my knees in the middle of the wide road. I couldn't take another step, but more than that, the shock had drained all the strength from my body.
渋谷だろ
but there was nobody to my left or right, or my back or front, anywhere. It was the busiest time of the week, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. What was going on here? This couldn't be happening. Oh, he's gonna close his eyes and there's gonna be one person there. I closed my eyes and put my hands on my head. This was a dream, an illusion. It couldn't be real. Sure, I thought I wanted to live a quiet life, all by myself. I didn't want to get caught up in anything or have anyone meddle in my plans. But that didn't mean I wanted to be the only person in the world. If there was no other people, who was going to pay for my living expenses? That's the big problem. If there was no people in the world, you wouldn't have living expenses because there would be no one to pay. If there were no other people, who was going to make the meals I got from the convenience store? If there are no other people, who was going to play ESO with me? See, that's the true dilemma. If there are no other people. Sound. I heard a sound. It wasn't me. It was a sound someone else made. Someone was here. Someone else is close. I felt saved. It was just a random chance that the crossing looked empty. Yeah, nobody had actually disappeared. I'd just been left alone in the world. I hadn't been left alone in the world. That's what I meant to say. I was almost ready to cry from sheer relief. I turned towards the sound. It was Oh. There's a wheelchair person. Is that Shogun? I thought you were supposed to be Shogun. It was a boy in a wheelchair. He was silently sitting there, menacingly, some distance from me, but still in the middle of the road. It was hard to figure out how old he was. If I went off just at his height, I would have thought he was in elementary school. He had a hat pulled over his eyes, making it hard to make out his face. But... I mean, I think it's probably Shogun, because the chapter title is called Shogun. If I remember correctly, I remember this mainly from editing, but in the intro song, it showed, Takumi and like becoming like old really quickly, and I think that person might have been like Shogun, like the older version of him, but it raised so many questions I don't really understand. The boy's voice was strangely clear. It was as if it was being whispered into my ear. I actually found myself turning around to check if someone else was behind me, but of course nobody was. Oh, he has a surprisingly young voice.
これどうなってるんですか?
I asked him.
どうして誰もいないのか? 君は理由を知ってますか?
知ってるよ。
His voice sounded young, but not like a child's.
それより、僕のメッセージは受け取ってくれた?
A message? I didn't know what he was talking about.
誰だ? 君は?
His wheelchair advanced forward, wheels turning just a little. It must have been an old chair because it made a rusty creaking sound as it went.
その目誰の目? でしょ?
I wasn't sure what to think. Why had this boy suddenly said, "Whose eyes are those?" to me right here, right now? Who was he?
目覚めるんだ。早く。
Wake up, sheeple.
出ないと、もっとたくさんの人が死んじゃうことになるから。
Even more people will die.
君は一体?
I rubbed my eyes, wiping away my tears. Only then could I finally see his face. Yeah, he's really wrinkly, but his voice was really young. I don't know what the heck is up with this dude. The boy wasn't a boy. His face was wrinkly, like an old man. His cheeks were caved in. His eyes sank deep into his skull. The whites cloudy. He had no eyebrows. Yet his body was as tiny as a child's.
僕は
Shogun.
将軍だよ。
For a moment, I forgot to breathe. My head felt like it had been hit by a hammer. The ground seemed to shake. No, it was my body that was shaking. I put a hand on the asphalt to support myself. What had he just said? Shogun? This was Shogun?
忘れないで。君は逃げちゃいけない。
I'm running right now! I looked up and saw that Shogun had already turned away from me. His wheelchair was creaking as he slowly disappeared. Is that the end of the chapter? Oh, it didn't even occur to me to try and follow him or ask more questions. Or to punch him in the face for getting me caught up in all this. I wasn't any good at any of that stuff. My head was starting to hurt. I felt an aching in my temples. I stayed on the ground, trying to endure the pain. The silent world suddenly began to fill with static. Whose voice was that? Who was that voice? I mean, I think it's Rimi, right? You can hear it buzzing now. Don't look at me. The static began to change into a voice. Somebody was putting their hand gently on my shoulder.
邪魔なんだっつうの。
何してんだろうね。
最近の若いもんは。
なんかのパフォーマンスじゃないの？
タク。
I looked up, still reeling from the headache. Yep, it was her. The demon girl, Rimi, was leaning over me and looking down into my eyes. Aww. Her eyes were clear and filled with life. Those eyes stared at me, and only me. Once again, she'd just shown up out of nowhere. She put her hands under my arms and tried to help me up. I screamed and pushed her away. Then I came to my senses and looked around. I was still in the middle of the road, but I wasn't alone anymore. There were people all around me, walking past me without the slightest bit of interest. Rimi seemed like she was about to cry as she looked at me. I screamed. The aching in my head turned into a stabbing pain. I tried to fight through the pain and crawled away from her, to put as much distance between her and me as possible. I felt the sudden shock on my cheek. It stung and started to feel hot. Rimi had slapped me. This time, she was going to kill me. I tried to crawl away as fast as I could, but Rimi easily grabbed my hand. She pulled me close with a strength that it was hard to believe a girl could have. Aww. She's like, it's alright. Just stop being delusional, please. And held me tight. Her soft body pressed against me gently. It was so warm, I could smell the slightest hint of sweat. Her long, flowing hair tickled my nose. It was the last thing I expected her to say. I could feel the strength leave my body. Her voice sounded a little sad. I couldn't tell if she was crying. I wasn't sure what to think. Wasn't she here to kill me? Why was she saving me? Wasn't that hallucination of people disappearing from Shibuya something she'd forced me to see? Once I'd felt this gentle warmth from her. Once she held me in her innocent arms. How could I still be sure? How could I stop myself from thinking that maybe Rimi Sakihata wasn't a demon after all, at all? Was I just a fool? Was I falling for her tricks? The one thing I could be sure of was that I felt so safe and peaceful in her arms. What was this strange feeling? Rimi let go and then put her hands up to my cheeks and looked me in the face. Her eyes were a little red. I nodded. We were standing in the middle of the now empty crosswalk. People on both sides of the road were staring at us as they waited for the lights to change. I could hear laughter starting to bubble up from the crowd. The cars all had their headlights pointing at me and were starting to honk their horns. Rimi held my hand tightly and started to run towards the sidewalk. I followed along, letting her pull me forward. We managed to make it through the noise of the horns to the sidewalk. Rimi let out a sigh of relief and stopped. She was still holding my hand. Just touching her made me feel calmer and calmer. It made me want to give into the feeling and stay like this forever. Rimi turned towards me.
無事でよかったね。
She looked so happy. I couldn't believe that look on her face. Might all be a lie or an act. But
話してよ。
I thought of her as my enemy for so long. I thought of her as a demon. If I gave in, I'd cease to be me. That's how it felt, at least.
あ、ごめんごめん。
Ha ha ha! She let go.
それにしてもびっくりした。タクが道の真ん中でうずくなってるんだもん。信号が赤になった時はどうなることかと。
She sounded happy. I turned away. I started to push through the crowds and walk forward.
僕、帰る。
じゃあ送るよ。具合悪いんでしょ。
I could hear her chasing after me, but I shook my head no.
タク。
The cheerfulness in her voice had vanished. I felt really bad, since she just saved me, so
ありがとう。
I just barely managed to squeak out the words. I think that's the end of the chapter. Oh, never mind. Man, this is a long chapter. You know what? I think I want to end it here for today. Shogun is a long chapter, and we finally saw Shogun, who, oh man. I'm really confused because the details I remember from the opening were Takumi and the wheelchair person who I thought was old at the time. They were like the same person, but they're clearly physically different. I thought maybe he just had like a time thing where he aged, but he sounded young, and I don't get it. And like we were Shogun at one point. I'm confused. I don't know what to believe. And you know, the power of this D sword is goddamn useless. But I guess we'll finish up I don't know how long this chapter is. I don't know how many chapters in this game. But I think we're gonna finish up the next part of this chapter, or the last part of this chapter, next time. And we'll find out more about, like, maybe more Shogun stuff or more about the case. That got really interesting. So going through this. But until next time, I will be seeing you. See ya!